Part 1. At the end of your rope is hope. Chapter 1. You've got the power. If anyone needed to change, it was me. From the time I was a teenager, I had a preoccupation with catching a buzz. Son of a preacher, I grew up in a drug and alcohol-free home in Eugene, Oregon. Our house, situated on an acre of land, was a neat, modest wood frame home on Mistletoe Street, road away from my dad's church. Our house was surrounded by azaleas, rose bushes, towering oak trees, and a large lawn that I and my 3 brothers mowed regularly. There was a garden in our backyard where we grew a lot of our own food, and we were able to can a season's worth of fruit and vegetables. Folks from the church, many of them farmers and fishermen, would stop by with beef and lamb and salmon, crab to fill our 2 large freezers. There were sidewalks, neighbors waving from the porches, and schools within walking distance of my home. Life in Eugene was largely predictable and tranquil. But mine was not. I was born with a birth defect, abnormal breast tissue. In other words, I had boobs. Looked like I needed a bra. I refused to take a shower at school, and my secret was something I tried to keep. But in 5th grade, I was exposed by a coach who took delight in making sure I was always a skin, that is, assigned to the team that had to take their shirts off to play ball. "Look at Lamb's tits," the coach would yell. It was cruel. To be laughed at, to be different, to be in fear of discovery. It just hurt way too much, and I decided one day that I should kill myself, and confessed my intention to my parents. They were shocked. "We never brought it up because we didn't want you to be even more self-conscious," they said. My emotional crisis forced a decision on their part to correct my deformity as soon as possible. So, at age 15, I had surgery, and voila, the outside had changed. Yet, the physical was improved, it was fixed, but the birth deformity, although corrected, left me feeling damaged emotionally. The psychological scars of being laughed at and mocked as a kid still remained. For most of my life, I felt like I didn't belong, like I could never belong, like every room I walked into was an unwelcome one. The same year I had the surgery, I attended a Christmas party at a retirement home where I played the piano on Sunday mornings for the old folks' church service. When no one was looking, I snuck a bottle of champagne, locked myself in a bathroom, and chugged it down. My first experience with alcohol equalized all the unease with which I lived. Gradually, alcohol became something I felt I needed desperately in order to remove my insecurities, make me feel like I fit in, and provide relief from my feelings of awkwardness. The more alcohol something had, the better, and I conscientiously read the bottle labels to make sure I was getting the highest proof possible. My drinking escalated. The beginning of my freshman year in college, I'd get drunk before class, then do cocaine to boot myself out the door. As time went on, drugs of all types became a fixation, especially cocaine. It was an obsession. It was lord and master over my life. It was all I ever thought about. I decided to leave college at 19. My life at that point had become an endless series of flirtations with recovery from drugs and alcohol, yet I always ended up right back where I started, in the drugs, the alcohol, the nicotine, even food. I was self-medicating with everything that could release me from the pain I felt. My grandma Lamm called my pain a bag of dead chickens. "Why do you insist on carrying it around everywhere you go?" she'd ask. Of course, she was right. I needed to drop the bag to get better, but I couldn't. To do so would mean I would have to do something about my addiction. I would have to face the dreaded C word. Change. I wasn't ready for that. The thought of living without my crutch was too frightening. So I decided to find myself. I moved to Kamakura, Japan, an ancient seaside city where I lived in a picturesque hillside home near the beach. Taught piano, taught English. I studied Japanese and Buddhism and wrote music. I bought fresh fish from the local fishermen. I cooked healthy foods. I tried to live a healthy lifestyle and worked to fix the pain I felt through spiritual exploration and dedicated self-discovery. I wasn't doing hard drugs, but I was doing alcohol, mainly beer and wine, and sometimes to the point of blacking out. The beer was making me fat. I smoked to control my appetite and keep the weight off. I binged and purged when I had eaten too much. If it wasn't one thing, it was another. I hated my lack of self-control. I prayed daily for strength. Please, God, relieve me from this. But I felt my prayers went unheard and unanswered, or maybe it just wasn't worth listening to. Maybe I was too damaged by my past, that sack of dead, rotting chickens I kept lugging around. I wondered, too, if maybe God had turned his back on me. One Saturday afternoon, while browsing in a little office supply shop, I slipped a book of Shinto prayers into my pocket. I stole it. I rationalized that it was okay to reward myself by stealing something since I hadn't drunk anything for 5 days. I deserved to get something for nothing, I thought. Not for nothing, as it turned out. A security guard pulled me aside, and within minutes, I was surrounded by guards speaking 100 miles an hour in a language I barely understood. They threatened to call the police. In the end, I cried my way out of it and charmed my way back to my moped. I went straight home and drank until I passed out. After I awoke, I remember I read a prayer in 1 Corinthians 10:13, and I claimed it. No temptation has seized you, except what is common to man. And God is faithful. He will not let you be tempted beyond what you can bear. But when you're tempted, He will also provide a way out so that you can stand up under it. I claimed that prayer, but to no avail. My way out always led me back to another unanswered prayer. Was I not praying hard enough? Or was I maybe a hopeless case, as I feared? I always ended up back where I'd begun, which was nowhere, and fast. Then one day a solution came to mind. The notion that if I moved to New York City, the center of the universe in my mind, I could make the connection, find the answers I lacked, and moderate what I had been unable to control. Within a week, I was packed, ready to go. I'd make a fresh new start of it. I took boxes of a life that I'd cobbled together to the post office and mailed them to New York, kissed friends goodbye, closed the latest broken chapter of my life, and promised myself that the future would be better.